You won't believe what I did with this dead, dusty patch of soil right here. I turned it into a crazy, thriving vegetable jungle. Seriously, it's like a green explosion now, full of leafy greens, tomatoes, peppers, and more. And here's the thing. I'm not a professional gardener or anything. I just started with zero knowledge and a stubborn, let's do this attitude. If I can turn this soil around, so can you. Let me take you back to the beginning. When I first looked at this spot, I honestly thought it was hopeless. The soil was dry, cracked, and looked like it hadn't seen rain in months. There were rocks, leftover roots, and patches of dead grass scattered all over. It didn't look like the kind of place where anything green could grow, let alone juicy vegetables that feed your family. I remember standing there thinking, what even is the point? This soil looks dead. It was dusty, hard, and totally lifeless. I was frustrated because I really wanted fresh vegetables, and buying them all the time felt expensive and less satisfying. Growing my own seemed like the perfect solution, but this soil was a serious challenge. So I did what any hopeful newbie would do. I started researching. I watched videos, read articles, and asked friends for advice. And I learned that the key to a thriving garden is healthy soil. You can plant all you want, but if the soil is dead or poor quality, nothing will grow well. That was the wake-up call I needed. I realized this patch of dirt wasn't dead forever. It just needed some love and attention. Soil is kind of like your body. If you feed it good stuff, give it air and water, it can heal and come back to life. The problem was I didn't have fancy tools or a big budget for soil treatments, so I had to find easy, cheap, and natural ways to bring life back to that soil. That's when I started experimenting with composting and natural fertilizers. At first I thought composting was complicated, but it's actually just recycling your kitchen scraps and yard waste into nutrient-rich soil food. I saved all my veggie scraps, eggshells, coffee grounds, everything organic, and started a compost pile. Over time, that pile turned into this amazing dark soil that smells earthy and looks rich. I mixed this homemade compost into the garden soil and gave it some time to absorb all the nutrients. I also dug deep to loosen the soil and added some crushed eggshells and coffee grounds to give it a natural boost. It wasn't instant magic, but I could see the soil start to look healthier, darker, softer, and more crumbly. The best part was watching that transformation happen day by day, from hard, cracked dirt to soil that felt alive and ready to support plants. It gave me hope and motivation to keep going. So yeah, turning dead soil into a vegetable jungle wasn't easy or fast, but with simple steps and patience, that dry dirt became the foundation for an incredible garden. And I'm here to show you exactly how I did it. No fancy tools, no magic products, just natural stuff anyone can find or make. If you want to grow your own fresh veggies but feel stuck because of your soil, keep watching. I promise, by the end of this video, you'll know how to turn your dead soil into a lush vegetable jungle too. Alright, now that we're hooked on bringing that dead soil back to life, let's talk about the real game changer. Fixing the soil itself. Because honestly, if your soil is as dead as mine was, you've got to start there. It's like trying to build a house on sand. No matter how good your plans are, it's just not gonna work. The first thing I did was clear out all the junk. I mean everything. Old weeds, dried up grass, rocks, sticks, trash, whatever was cluttering up the ground. You want to start fresh with a clean slate. I grabbed a rake in my hands and made sure nothing would get in the way of new life sprouting up. Once it was cleared, I dug deep into the soil. I didn't just scratch the surface, I flipped it over and broke up the hard clumps. This step is super important because soil needs air to breathe. If it's all packed tight and hard, plant roots can't grow, and helpful bugs and microorganisms can't live there either. So turning the soil is like opening up the door for life to come back. After loosening the soil, I added compost. Now if you're thinking, compost, that sounds fancy or complicated, don't worry. It's actually one of the easiest things to make at home. Compost is basically food for your soil, made from old vegetable peels, fruit scraps, coffee grounds, eggshells, grass clippings, and leaves. Instead of throwing these things away, you pile them up somewhere shady and let nature do its work. Over a few months, all that organic waste breaks down into this amazing, dark, crumbly stuff that smells earthy and looks like chocolate cake for your garden. I started my compost pile using kitchen scraps I saved every day. No fancy bins, just a corner of the yard where I tossed in my veggie leftovers and some shredded leaves from the yard. I turned the pile every week to help it break down faster and kept it moist but not soaked. It took time, a few months, but the result was totally worth it. Once the compost was ready, I spread a thick layer over my garden soil and mixed it in well. This was like giving the soil a huge vitamin boost. Suddenly, the dirt looked richer and felt softer. I could tell it was ready to support some serious plant growth. But I didn't stop there. I also added some natural fertilizers to help speed things up. For example, crushed eggshells add calcium, which plants need to build strong cell walls. Used coffee grounds add nitrogen, a nutrient that helps plants grow big and green. These natural extras gave the soil a little extra kick without any harsh chemicals. Throughout this whole process, patience was key. It wasn't instant. It took a few weeks of feeding and digging before I saw the soil really start to change. But when it did, it felt like the soil was waking up from a long sleep. One other thing I did was test the soil's moisture often. Dead soil can be super dry and hard, so I made sure to water it lightly but regularly, keeping it damp but not soggy. Moist soil helps the tiny creatures living in it to thrive, and those little guys are the real heroes in turning soil healthy again. So, to sum up, clear the space, loosen the soil, add homemade compost, mix in natural fertilizers, and keep the soil moist. That's the soil rescue mission. Without this step, nothing else will grow well. But once your soil is alive again, you're halfway to your vegetable jungle. In the next part, I'll show you how I planted and grew those veggies that made this garden explode with life. Trust me, it's easier than you think. Alright, now that the soil was looking healthy and ready, it was time to get my hands dirty and start planting. This part was honestly the most exciting. Watching life sprout from the ground after all the hard work felt incredible. I didn't jump straight into planting fancy or complicated veggies. Instead, I started with easy ones that are known for being low maintenance and fast growing. Think lettuce, radishes, green beans, and spinach. These babies are forgiving and great for beginners like me, plus they grow quick enough that you don't have to wait forever to see results. I marked out small rows in the garden, making sure to space them out nicely. Plants need room to grow, so I gave each seed plenty of space to spread its roots and leaves. For most seeds I planted them shallowly, just covering them lightly with soil because some seeds hate being buried too deep. Once the seeds were in, I gave everything a good watering, but not too much. One tricky thing I learned is that new seeds don't like to drown. You want to keep the soil moist but not soggy. Too much water can rot the seeds or wash them away, so I made sure to water gently and regularly, especially in the first few weeks. Here's a cool trick I discovered: mulch. I covered the soil around the plants with a layer of mulch, basically dry leaves, grass clippings, and some shredded cardboard I had lying around. Mulch does three big things. It keeps moisture in the soil longer, it blocks weeds from popping up and stealing nutrients, and as it breaks down, it adds more nutrients back into the soil. It's like a protective blanket for your garden beds. Every day I'd check on my little sprouts. At first it was just tiny green points barely poking through the soil, but within a couple of weeks those shoots turned into actual plants with leaves stretching out. Seeing those first sprouts felt like winning a mini lottery. I couldn't believe how something so small could grow into something so green and alive. As the plants grew, I started noticing more life in the garden. Worms wriggling in the soil, bees buzzing around the flowers, and little bugs crawling on the leaves. It was a full ecosystem forming right before my eyes. I also added some companion plants, herbs like basil, mint, and rosemary, planted right next to the veggies. Not only do these herbs taste amazing, but they help keep pests away naturally. So instead of spraying chemicals on my plants, I had these little herbal bodyguards protecting the garden. It was nature's way of balancing itself out. For support, I put up simple stakes and trellises for climbing plants like green beans and peas. This kept them off the ground and gave them room to climb toward the sun. Watering stayed consistent. I kept the soil moist, especially during hot days, and avoided wetting the leaves too much to prevent disease. Week by week the garden got denser and greener. The leaves looked shiny and healthy, and soon I saw tiny flowers starting to bloom. Flowers mean fruit is on the way, like tomatoes, peppers, or cucumbers. This stage felt like watching a slow-motion magic show. All that dead soil I started with had transformed into a living, breathing vegetable jungle, all thanks to patience, care, and some smart planting moves. In the next part, I'll take you through harvest time, when all that hard work pays off with fresh, homegrown veggies ready to eat. Now comes the best part of all: harvest time. After weeks of planting, watering, and watching my little garden grow, finally being able to pick fresh vegetables felt amazing. It was like nature's reward for all the hard work I put in. The first veggies to be ready were the leafy greens, lettuce and spinach. They were so crisp and fresh, way better than anything you get from the store. I'd pick a few leaves each day to toss into salads, and the taste was just unbeatable. It's wild how much better homegrown veggies taste when you know exactly where they came from. Next up were the radishes. They popped out of the ground surprisingly fast and had this perfect peppery crunch. I loved snacking on them straight from the garden. It felt like having a secret stash of snacks that were super fresh and healthy. As the weeks went by, more veggies started producing. Green beans climbing their trellis, cherry tomatoes turning bright red, and peppers showing off their colors. Each day I went out, I found something new to pick. It was like my own little grocery store outside my door, open 24/7. Harvesting wasn't just about picking food, it was also a chance to appreciate the whole process, from dead soil to a jungle of plants. I'd pause and look around at the thick green leaves, the buzzing bees, and the rich smell of earth. It reminded me that with a little effort, even the most lifeless soil can turn into something incredible. One thing I learned during harvest is to be gentle with the plants. Pulling veggies too roughly can damage the roots or other parts of the plant, so I made sure to use clean scissors or just twist the veggies off carefully. This helped keep the plants healthy and producing more for longer. Another tip is to harvest regularly. Leaving ripe veggies on the plant too long can slow down new growth, so picking at the right time encourages the plant to keep making more fruit or leaves. It's like giving your garden a little encouragement to keep going strong. Since I planted herbs alongside my veggies, I also got to harvest fresh basil, mint, and rosemary. These herbs added so much flavor to my meals and kept the bugs away naturally. A win-win. Plus, the smell of fresh herbs in the garden is seriously relaxing. The joy of cooking with fresh produce from your own garden is next level. There's no guesswork about freshness or pesticides. It's all pure, clean, and from your own backyard. I started experimenting with simple recipes that highlighted the flavors of my homegrown veggies, and even my family noticed the difference. So if you're thinking about starting your own garden but feel overwhelmed or worried your soil is too bad, just remember, I started with dead soil too. And with a bit of work and patience, you can grow your own vegetable jungle. It's about learning, trying, and enjoying the process. To wrap up, here are a few quick tips if you want to get started. Give your soil time and feed it well. That's the foundation. Pick easy veggies to begin with. Lettuce, radishes, and green beans are great. Use mulch to keep soil moist and healthy. Plant herbs as natural pest protectors. Harvest gently and regularly to keep plants happy. Enjoy every step, from planting to cooking. Thanks so much for watching. If you loved this journey from dead soil to a veggie jungle, please hit that like button, subscribe for more gardening tips, and leave a comment below telling me what you want to grow next. Let's keep growing together and turn more dead soil into green paradise.